Thank you for sharing your love and your legacy with us, Shabanya. Let's take a breath. We've journeyed through remembrance, and I trust that you can feel the heart space in this moment. Get a sense of the love and the memories and the lives touched and transformed and honored that is present within our circle here, right? And what a beautiful thing it is, and what a touching thing to be able to not only honor those that have been a part of our lives, but through this sacred community ritual, be able to honor how all of us have been touched by individuals who have reminded us of love, who have reminded us of peace, who have encouraged us in small and big ways, who in many beautiful and faceted ways have allowed us to be who we are in this very moment. However those memories were expressed, however they were shared, we are here because they were. We are here because of the individuals that brought so much into our lives. And we often even say here at Unity on the Bay, we're here because of people that we may not even know. But in this very moment, in this very presence, in this very essence of remembering, we are one with the consciousness of the thousands upon thousands of individuals who brought their consciousness to Unity on the Bay in our 100 years of being in South Florida. That is the kind of love that we not only feel when we walk in or when we connect to Unity on the Bay, that is the kind of love that we share with each other and that we leave for other generations. And so as we remember those that came before us, we remember our ancestors, that we are the manifestation of their dreams, of their visions, that we ourselves are the living expressions of something that was within the hearts of all those that have loved on us, and that we get to be part of that for somebody else. And so as we move out of the stillness from that space, the invitation is to move from the space of remembrance to recognizing that it is about renewal. Because we have been renewed by them being a part of our lives. We have been renewed by remembering the ways in which we have been blessed by them. We are being renewed in recognizing that the legacy that they leave within us is a legacy that is meant to live on and grow and expand through us. And so this is really about renewal, about looking back, but then being fully present to how that which was part of our history and our past is so alive in us. And then looking forward to asking ourselves, what is it that I can do to bring that essence, to bring that presence in greater ways out into the world, to honor those that honored us, to bless through the blessing that they provided us. And I know that when somebody dies, that sometimes in the moments of grief that we're a part of, the world can feel a little smaller, does it not? Sometimes when we miss somebody, the world can sometimes feel a little smaller. And I believe that Spirit is actually inviting us to realize that as we honor the grief, as we honor the sadness, as we honor whatever it is that comes up for us in remembrance, that the opportunity is not there to become smaller or feel our world being smaller, but to claim that through the fullness of what we've received from all those that have loved on us and been a part of our lives, we get to grow the world. We get to grow and expand who we are, and we get to grow and expand who they are, who they always will be, because this is an ongoing journey of renewal, and it's an ongoing journey of bringing more people into the awareness that in God, there is no separation. In God, there is no time and space. In God, we are fully, always connected, and we are all one. And to honor the legacies. And, when we think about legacy, and I know that you are with me in this, we don't necessarily, look at legacy with like what possessions somebody had or what accomplishments. It's measured by the light that we felt, the love that was shared in us, and maybe even the love and the light that was inspired in us through their connection, through who they were and how they showed up and who they continue to be in us. And it reminds me of the poet who was also a Unity student and actually almost a Unity minister, Maya Angelou. And she said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And so I bet that as you remember those loved ones that you brought to mind, that you were feeling that presence. You were feeling that which they gave to you. Underneath maybe some of the grief, underneath some of the sadness, because maybe that's also just another side of the love that was shared and what you felt. And you're remembering that. But the question is, what do you do then with that remembrance? How do you allow it to continue to inspire you in the same way that it inspired you when they were physically with you and around you? Each soul, I believe, remembers today the seeds that were planted by God, but that we may have been reminded of by these beautiful expressions of God in our lives. Because we aren't just the recipients of love, we are an expression of love. We aren't just the recipient of the connections and the relationships, we are what makes them come alive. And we can still do that with everybody that has crossed our path, all of our loved ones, especially the ones that we remember today for the ways in which they blessed us and the way in which they grew us. And so moving from remembrance to renewal, we carry that living legacy with us because those individuals awakened love within us. How many of you, when you think of those that you came to mind, felt the love? The love that was awakened in you. That is the love of God that somebody came to remind you were worthy of and that you were a part of. How many of you maybe awakened to courage as a result of those individuals? Maybe because their life and the ways that they connected with you reminded you the power of their courage and you want to live into that courage. Or maybe because maybe they felt like they didn't fully live into that courage. Whatever ways they inspired courage in you, this is an opportunity to live that courage more fully. How many of us awakened to our divine potential through somebody just seeing that within us, loving us so much that we had to take a moment and say to ourselves, wow, I'm that lovable. I'm that worthy of love. And how we live into our worthiness of that love is a legacy, and it is a blessing, and it is an honoring of the love that they provided us. It's like my grandmother, I was remembering, she's up here in one of the pictures, my grandmother, Maria Elena. She once wrote me a 3 or 4, maybe it was like a 10-page letter in horrible handwriting. We still talk to this day about how horrible my grandmother's handwriting was, but it took me a long time to read it. And at the end of it, it was, I want you to be able to get up on the tallest mountain you can find and scream out, this is who I am, so what? And be proud of it. And so how many of us actually are able to anchor ourselves in that, in the fact that somebody saw something within us. And I believe that then part of their heritage, part of the ways in which we are inspired is to really live into it. For all of us to walk on the tallest mountain and be proud and feel worthy and know that we are the expressions of a greater love and a greater love that brought so many of us together. And we, I believe, are awakening to that, and we get to awaken to the ways in which we live the legacy that they left in us and how they live through that legacy in our lives. Now, how many of you remember the Bible verse? And I've shared this one before. It's from 2 Timothy, and it says, "For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but rather a spirit of power." Anybody remember that Bible verse? Oh. okay, I'm going to use it a little bit more from now on. We had a few more people that remember that verse in the first service. Well, it was really interesting. I actually looked into it, and there's something before that. It's when Paul is speaking to Timothy. He writes a letter and says, I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that lived first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I am sure lives in you. For this reason, I remind you to rekindle the gift of God that is within you. And I just really loved getting to know that what Paul was doing in that moment was really honoring the spiritual lineage of Timothy. He was in that way honoring the ways in which he was molded to be faith-filled. And we can always lean on those that came before us. And so just like Timothy leans on the faith of his grandmother and his mother, here he is able to stand even more powerfully and anchored in that. And that's what I invite us into. So if you felt loved, if you felt given peace, if you felt being held, if you felt being empowered, how can we not only lean and anchor ourselves in that, but then how can we grow it? How can we extend it? How can we step fully from it, embodying it even more so that not only we honor and celebrate the legacy of those people that have come into our lives, we are creating a legacy of our own for the people that we get to touch and be a part of their life. Our spiritual inheritance is not about bloodlines. It is the love. It is the faith. It is the courage. It is the essence of those that came to us and those that we hold within our hearts. And Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, says this: there is no absence of life anywhere, only changes in its manifestation. And so maybe those individuals are not in our physical life. That doesn't mean that their life is not with us. That doesn't mean that their life is not around us. It has changed form. And the opportunity is to recognize, for me at least, that form is formless. And it is within me, and it is all around me, and I get to tap into it moment by moment as I become aware of it, and even when I'm unconscious of it. It is there. And through that, then, we remember that death then is not an ending. It's just life expressing itself in new ways. That, to me, is what eternal life is. So there are people that believe in the, after death, going to heaven. There are people that believe in reincarnation. There are people that bring both of those together. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about either of those, quite honestly. One or the other may be. What I take a lot more time in is how I can be a part of the eternal life now. How can I honor the eternal life of my grandmother now? How can I honor the eternal life of Bill Cameron, who Dory brought a picture of and was the senior minister of this community for so long and was a part of creating that which we all stand on? Like, that to me is eternal life. How I get to be in your hearts, how you get to be in mine, and how that will continue to unfold. That's the eternal life that I lean on. Now, the others will be a wonderful blessing and will be the icing on the cake. And eternal life is consciousness. Eternal life is how we make people feel. And eternal life is how we get to feel the presence of God and invite others to experience the presence of life. Last Friday, a couple of days ago, we had a board event, and we were just a social. A few of us went out and we did some arts and crafts. And we were choosing what kind of arts and crafts. There was a lot of bedazzling, by the way. But we, and by the way, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but Steve didn't know what bedazzling was and told us he had to Google it. So, sorry, Steve. And one of the things that Steve said was he looked over at something that was on the wall and was like, I want to do that. What is that? And, well, it was needlepoint. And if you know needlepoint, you're not going to do it in the 2 hours that we had at that event. But it reminded me, and I shared with him and those that were there, Helen Vivian, who's actually the one that really started our Angels Everywhere program that the Christmas Joy program is a part of. She's also up here. She passed away a few years ago. But I let him know, Helen Vivian used to needlepoint, and right before her passing, she gifted me a needlepoint of a swan on a lake. And in that moment, we just started talking, and somehow we also got into the conversation of signs. Eddie, another member of our board, was talking about a book that he received called Signs, and how he, through that, is able to see signs from his mother who passed away. And he's able to also ask for signs when he is moving through whatever he is moving from his mother. And I think that's a very beautiful thing, and I think that today maybe we can be even more open to seeing those signs. And as I sat with that, I also realized the biggest sign I have is life itself. My life is a sign of those that came before me. My life is a sign of everything that they instilled in me and everything that they awakened in me. When I want to experience those individuals, all I have to do is look at my life and know that I am that person's sign that love is possible, that peace is possible, that grace is what we are fully worthy of, that we and God are always one. Life is our biggest sign. Now, it only dawned on me this morning, though, when I was thinking back, that needlepoint was actually a sign from Helen. And it just really, even not in the moment, but looking back on it, it meant something for me. And that I was here to live as boldly as she did, that I was here to be as authentically loving as she was. And then it dawned on me, and I believe this is true for all of us, that maybe we can't call them, but we can still listen to them. Because we can listen to everyone that's been a part of our life in the stillness. We can always call upon that. And even more than calling them, we can recognize that those individuals that loved on us, have they not become part of our inner voice? When I think that I can't do it and something within me says, no, you can, that is God as Helen saying it through me. When I don't think that I am worthy of something, and all of a sudden I have a thought, wait a minute, you are worthy. I go back, that is the voice of Helen saying that all people are worthy of joy and of good and of grace, and we're going to do some outreach to make sure that they know that. And so that is the part of life that we can really honor and that we can really tap into and live into. She, Helen, in God is in me, and we can change the world. Those that you love, that are here, that are physically not here, they are in God, which is the only place that we really are in, and so we are always connected. Myrtle Fillmore, our other co-founder, said this: you will learn that those who go through the change called death are really passing through a transition, the soul giving up the body temple. Your dear one is not gone away anywhere. They abide in the heart of God, and you have learned that God is omnipresent. Wherever God is, and God is everywhere, there each and every one of us is. And isn't that a beautiful reminder that love is never gone, that love is always present, and that those loved ones, maybe they're physically not here, but they have expanded into the infinite presence of God. There are no limitations now in feeling and knowing them. I remember when my grandmother passed away, I actually told my cousins that I was actually more prepared for it because I had moved away from Ecuador. And so I didn't see my grandmother often. I didn't talk to my grandmother often. But you know what? I always knew that she loved me. I always knew that I loved her, and I always felt that love. I was already able to see that it was beyond the physical. And so if legacy is what's been awakened with us, the question is, what do we do with that? How can we honor those individuals? We are their living legacy, and we get to create our own legacy. And so I'm going to invite you this week, and as you look at the ways you want to honor these individuals that have touched your lives, to look at the ways in which you can embody their qualities. Right? So think about the best qualities, the best traits that attracted you to that person, and think of the ways in which you are the new expression of those traits. Think about that person that maybe you brought their picture of or put in the prayer box. What are some of the traits that you experience in them? Say it out loud. Loving. So Faye, as you recognize that they were loving, the invitation is, how can you be more loving and embracing the legacy that they left within your heart? What else? Patience. Grace? How can we be grace in expression? How can we live more patiently? How can we honor that? One more person. What else? Kindness and faith. So how can you live more faith-filled? And in those moments where you are not sure how faith is supposed to show up, how can you lean on their faith and know that then you get to embody it and make it even deeper and make it and anchor yourself in it? And so what are the ways in which you can embody the qualities that drew them to you and you to them? Then how can you extend the circle? Because, listen, they had their sphere of influence, right? Like they had the people that they were able to connect with, and that was that. But now all those people that they touched have their influence, right? And have their circles. And all of a sudden, their circle of those that passed away becomes bigger and bigger and bigger by extension. So how are we growing the circle? And when we think about that, how are we growing the circle of those that can recognize that God is always present, God is always good, that there is no separation, and that we are worthy of living heaven on earth? How can we touch more people in honoring the ways in which we've been touched by those that came before us? And then the third thing is to evolve the story. So take what they started in you. What did they inspire in you? What new ways did they carve out through their sharing with you and continue to evolve the story? It doesn't end when you think it ends. It is a continual thing, and it can grow, and it can expand, and it can multiply. When you share love, love multiplies. When you share peace, peace multiplies. When you share grace, grace multiplies. When you share the legacy that they've given you and is within your heart, their legacy grows. And so when we live love, the love that they awakened, we transform grief into grace. When we live the legacy that they awakened within us, we transform a sadness into an honoring, death into a renewal. Their acts of kindness or words of faith, the courage that they sparked within us becomes not only their story, but becomes our story, because love never dies. It multiplies. Everything that God is continues to grow and expand and evolve, and each one of us are a part of that expansion. And one day, someone will also remember you, not for what you owned, not for what you achieved, but for how you made them feel and the love that you awakened in them. As Thomas Campbell said, to live in hearts we leave behind is not to die. And so I say thank you to Helen. I say thank you to my grandmothers, Maria Elena and Aide. I say thank you to all of my ancestors and the ways in which they envisioned this very moment, even unconsciously, but that I can step into more fully. And I invite you to be in gratitude for all those people and realize that we also shouldn't forget Jesus, the master teacher. That ancestor that came before us to teach us that we were one with God, to know that there was no separation. The sages that went before us, we carry them with us today. We carry that light with us, and light is here to be shared and to express. And so my invitation this week is to shine the light that it was awakened within you by the beautiful and powerful ways in which so many people added to your life and added to your experience, to do it for yourself, to do it for them, and to see the beauty of their life still transforming the world today. And that, I believe, is how not only we can live our life more fully, that is how we recognize just how sweet it is that we have found each other and that we get to be with each other as we create heaven on earth. So let us be blessed by knowing that we are a blessing. Namaste.
How sweet it is to be loved.